But we'll start with this. Nebraska, Northwestern, big noon in Dublin, Ireland. All right. So normally, you might not get me fired up about Nebraska and Northwestern. You might have a hard time about that. As a matter of fact, last year when that game went down, I looked up and said, wait a second, 56-7? And I was at an airport on my way home. And I'm going, what is this? Turns out that was the best that we'd seen Scott Frost, Nebraska look for 4 friggin' years. And it's also the season in which they have the dubious honor of probably being the best 3-win team ever. Lots of close games, lots of one-score games, and then that one gargantuan win, 56-7 over Pat Fitzgerald's Northwestern. One of the reasons I think this game is important is because we're in a do-or-die season, I believe, for Scott Frost. This is him with his back against the wall, and he's wounded. And the last time you saw someone of that stature with their back against the wall, you might call them, I don't know, a lion who's ready to pounce because I'm not going to court death in that way. And he went about it in the offseason going, I got to change everything up. I got to flip it all over. So got a new offensive line coach in Donovan Raiola, which I think is the most important part of what Nebraska is trying to do in 2022. And we got Scott Frost talking to local Huskers radio, talking about, hey, I see the offensive line unit vomiting 15, 20 times at each practice, to which, hey, there's a few folks that are going, I don't think you're getting across what you think you're getting across there, Coach Frost. I really think that you should reconsider how you talk well about Donovan Raiola, because that's what he was trying to get across, is that they are meaner, they are nastier, and they are in better shape. The last time that I heard about a head coach talking about his new offensive line coach in that way, it was Bob Stoops talking about Bill Beatonbow in 2013. They went ahead and got Alabama in the Sugar Bowl and upset number 3 Alabama in the Sugar Bowl with Trevor friggin' Knight at quarterback, which is one of the wildest games that I've ever covered in my entire life. Just did not expect it to go that way. So you have that going on for you if you're a Nebraska fan. You also have a new quarterback. We saw what some folks thought was a quarterback derby between Chuba Purdy, transfer from Florida State to Nebraska, also a little brother of one Brock Purdy who was at Iowa State. And then you have Casey Thompson coming from Texas to Nebraska, who we all thought was probably going to be the guy. I saw a lot of Casey Thompson because when he lived in South Moore, I lived in Norman, and I got to see a lot of high school football. And about the time his big brother Kendall was coming up, all Charles would tell anybody is that Casey's the one. Casey's the guy to keep your eye on. Goes out to Newcastle, gets an offer from Oklahoma, gets an offer from Texas, spurns Oklahoma to go to Texas, and really had an opportunity to jump in the portal like 2 years ago and end up at Oregon. He stayed for what would be Tom Herman's final year, played a bunch for Steve Sarkisian after losing the job to Hudson Card, transfers this year to Nebraska, where I expect him to run Mark Whipple's offense to some level of high degree of spectacular rating. Like, the way that I look at this is, if Mark Whipple can do what he did with Kenny Pickett, I don't see why he can't do it with Casey Thompson. That's not a dig at Kenny Pickett. That's really Casey Thompson being that talented and Mark Whipple having an offense that can go. It's one of the more high-profile moves that Scott Frost was able to pull off at Nebraska this offseason. You get the guy who put the only quarterback in the first round in this NFL's draft. Yeah, that's how you say that. NFL draft. Yeah. Kenny Pickett to the Steelers, who's probably going to have a really great partnership with George Pickens. But he also had a really great partnership with Jordan Addison, who is the reigning Biletnikoff Award winner, who transferred to USC. Also in there, I had somebody in the YouTube comments looking at the preseason AP All-Americans talking about, is Jordan Addison actually a top 3 receiver? And I'm like, that's the reigning Biletnikoff Award winner. He is the best wide receiver in the country. He's got the award to prove it, and Mark Whipple helped develop that. Now, Brennan Marion, the wide receiver that actually helped put Jordan Addison on the map, he's down at Texas, which is another reason why I think that Texas is going to be good, but that's something else entirely. Then, take into account what they are doing at wide receiver at Nebraska. One of the other really impressive moves that Scott Frost pulled off was getting Mickey Joseph to come back home. You'll know Mickey Joseph's name because he was wide receiver coach at LSU and helped put together what might be the best trio of wide receivers in the history of college football. Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall, Justin Jefferson, all his guys on that 2019 team where Joe Burrow was throwing them passes. They were making touchdowns. Joe Burrow wins the Heisman Trophy in a year that Chase Young should have won the Heisman Trophy, but I'm getting ahead of myself over there. He brings with him Trey Palmer from LSU and Dakotas to ever do it Crawford. His real name, y'all, Dakotas to ever do it Crawford, is playing wide receiver at Nebraska. He's also got one of the coolest, literally and figuratively and punny, NIL deals in existence. He has an NIL deal with a local AC service in Lincoln, like you do when you Dakotas, right? So you got that going on for you if you were in Nebraska. They added, I think, one of the most underrated JUCO transfers of the last 5 years, in Anthony Grant from New Mexico Military Institute. Had like 1,800 yards rushing at New Mexico Military Institute. Also started out his career over at Florida State. They expect him to be the bell cow back in what I expect to be an offense that puts up a lot of points. You have a lot going for you if you're Scott Frost, but you also have a lot to contend with. Not only did he take a 20% deduction in his salary going into this year, he got hit with a show cause, which, doesn't mean much because Nebraska was not going to fire him, and it was a 1-year show cause, so he's serving all of that in Nebraska, and Nebraska picked up some fines, basically for him having someone who doesn't have one of the 10 on-the-field assistant titles working with players at a time period when he was not supposed to be working with players on the field. What it mostly is insult to injury and embarrassing for Nebraska and embarrassing for Frost. And the last guy to get hit with a show cause that lasted 1 year was Dan Mullen, and that was the year after he had Florida looking like a national title contender that ends up losing to Alabama in 2020, and he gets shown the door, and he's working at some studio in Bristol now. That's how these things kind of go. But if you're Scott Frost, the thing to lean on, and for those of us that want to throw up Scott Frost as being one of the great coaches that I still think has more to prove, hey, man, he was outstanding in Oregon. Like, as offensive coordinator for Chip Kelly, he helped get Oregon to the national title game. He also developed a Heisman winner in Marcus Mariota, and they were like 33-8 when he was offensive coordinator. He goes to Central Florida, flips that program into the kind that runs the table undefeated with a win against Auburn in the Peach Bowl 2017 and a claim to a national championship. And then 4 years of just bad at Nebraska just doesn't seem to fit. But I think that really underscores just what the effort has to be like to flip a program like Nebraska back to anything resembling when Scott Frost was quarterback in Nebraska in 1997. They won a national championship. In the 90s for Nebraska are really the golden era of football for Nebraska. And that's saying a lot because the 70s, 80s, they were pretty damn good too. Now, on the Northwestern side of things, Pat Fitzgerald probably had that 56-7 loss in the back of his head for the entire offseason because it's embarrassing. Even if you get beat 56-7, it ain't Ohio State that beat you 56-7. It's 3-win Nebraska. You're taking that with you when you go to Ireland. Again, can we just take a moment and say we're in Ireland playing American football, because it ain't like they don't play football, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to be wild. I can't wait to see what the Big Noon crew looks like, how many of those guys are wearing green, how many Irish jokes we get in, Irish puns we get in. I'm going to put the over-under on the pregame show and Irish mentions at like 15, right? I think we can get to 16 real quick. And shout out to my man, your man, Rob Stone, who's probably going to get at least 3 of those in. I'm already just calling my shot in that way. You also have a preseason All-American in Peter Skronsky playing offensive line at Northwestern, because somehow, some way, Pat Fitzgerald always finds a way to come up with one of the better players in all of college football. A couple years ago, it was Greg Newsome. And then a couple years after that, we have Rashawn Slater. And we've also had Brandon Joseph, right, who's an All-American at cornerback. He's playing safety at Notre Dame. They have some guys that I think can give Nebraska more than just a little bit of a hard time. And really, this game is going to be like playing 2 games at once, right? Dogfight football, if you will. Top Gun reference there. Because you have to game plan to get to Ireland, right? They've already left. They have to get there soon. They have to get acclimated. They have to get acclimated to the time change, which, as a dude that spent time in 4 different time zones over the course of like a week, right? In the last weeks of July, I can tell you that was a lot for my mans to take. Going across the Atlantic, try to do that, and then play football. It's going to be who is better conditioned and who is better prepared mentally to go and try to win the football game at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, noon Eastern Time. I'm not sure what time it's going to be in Dublin, Ireland. I just know that we're all going to be watching the hell out of it because August 27th, we get football back. Thanks for watching this video. And remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos on the #1 ranked show YouTube channel.